How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So on today's video, we're going to be going over some of the maintenance procedures that are going to be required for the new Honda Prologue. One could only assume that the Acura ZDX will follow the same exact maintenance procedures. Now, this video is going to be good for anyone potentially in the market for one of these vehicles. Now, keep in mind, we have limited information on these vehicles as it stands, but some Honda testing did come out, and these procedures or service intervals were in there. And at the end of the day, this is a GM product, so chances are that we're following their maintenance intervals at this point and not so much the Honda stuff, as a lot of these maintenance items have a lot of different service intervals than your typical Honda vehicle would. So once again, it is a GM product, and a lot of the stuff will be GM based, but with Honda's twist on it. So let's go ahead and get started. Some of the stuff that won't be further needed, obviously, since it is electric motors versus a conventional engine, won't need any sort of tune-up or anything like that. Won't need spark plugs, won't need a timing belt, etc. So that is something that is gonna save the consumer obviously some money, which is nice. So these vehicles no longer have a maintenance minder that you traditionally would find in a Honda vehicle, displayed either on the infotainment system or on the cluster. Now, I'm not sure if when a Honda comes out with their own full EV product, it will go back to using the infotainment system or not. But for the Prologue and the ZDX, you're going to get your information as far as the maintenance goes via the Acura Link and the Honda Link applications on your phone. So that's how you will be notified when it is due for service. Although we are going to cover all those items, and you will know that information just based off of what I tell you anyways. And also, this information could be found in an owner's manual, which 9 out of 10 times should be in your glove box. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with maintenance item number one, and this is going to be the electric drive trans fluid. So these cars are going to come in two different configurations: two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. So if you have a two-wheel drive setup, this will only apply to that two-wheel drive motor. Now, if you have a four-wheel drive setup, you're going to have two sets of motors that you're going to have to do the transmission fluid on, and this is going to be every 45,000 miles or every 72,000 kilometers. There is no time interval, as if you don't drive the vehicle, obviously you're not going to be heating up that fluid and burning it up and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's going to be aggressive enough again at this point, but I most likely will have a follow-up video in a year or two with all new updated maintenance procedures if I see that it isn't aggressive enough and causing some long-term issues. So moving on, coolant service is going to have to be every 15,000 miles or every 24,000 kilometers or every 5 years. Now, 9 out of 10 times people are going to reach the mileage or kilometers point before the 5-year mark. Obviously, if you're buying these vehicles, most likely you're going to be doing some driving and accumulating mileage fairly quickly. So moving on, these vehicles do have a maintenance on hood and tailgate struts. Again, I'm not sure if this is something that's just following the GM stuff, or Honda's just deciding to do this on their own, but they want to replace these every 100,000 miles or 161,000 kilometers or every 10 years. Now, failing hood struts and tailgate struts is not a new thing, so I don't know if Honda's just doing this just to be extra aggressive, which is something new. But we have seen hood struts and tailgate struts fail over the years on Odysseys, Accord V6s, you name it, and eventually they get weak, and as we're working on the cars, they end up falling on our heads. Or if you're opening the tailgate and going in and out of it, the tailgates can start to come down, and obviously they are heavy, so you don't want to play with that stuff. Anytime you see any of that stuff getting weak or slowly climbing down or falling down, you're going to want to address that. So they are putting a maintenance minder on those items, which is, in my opinion, probably overlooked most times. So moving on, brake fluid, they want to change it every 5 years, which I think is not aggressive enough. Brake fluid absorbs moisture and really lowers the boiling point. Now, these vehicles are extremely heavy, so that's probably one of the items I'm going to be recommending every 2 to 3 years or every 30,000 miles or so. But again, this is we'll have to monitor and see and kind of just go based off of what we're getting feedback from the vehicle and customers at that point. So cabin filter every 22,500 miles or every 36,000 kilometers or every 2 years. I completely disagree with that. You should be changing your cabin filter once a year. It's fairly cheap, very inexpensive, and there's no reason that you should have to wait 22,000 miles or 2 years. There's a lot of it picks up a lot of debris from the outside and a lot of odors. And again, something very inexpensive to replace, and you could do it yourself 9 out of 10 times. Last but not least, the AC desiccant, they want to replace it every 7 years, which is basically the receiver dryer for the AC system. And they're just saying basically there's going to be a lot of usage of the AC system, and they want to make sure that isn't not getting contaminated by overusing it, and just something they're going to recommend. Now, I don't know if you don't change it and the AC system tends to fail, then if that'll be on you. But anyways, they're putting a 7-year interval on it, which is a very long time in my opinion. Again, if we see any sort of failing components, then I might make that a little bit more aggressive on our next video. Some of other things that are going to be different is typically Honda has their own design, and GM will have their own design. So a lot of parts will not cross over like they do in other vehicles. Like a lot of times Odysseys, Pilots, Ridgelines, and Passports share some of the same components, and the Accord, CR-V, and Civic kind of share some of the stuff as well. That's no longer going to be the case because obviously this is a GM product once again. So you can't cross over lug nuts and wheels and stuff like that. Most likely we'll have different bolt patterns, and all sorts of thread pitches will be different. So just something to keep in mind if you have an older Honda and let's say you're trying to swap over wheels, chances are that's not going to happen. Or even from a newer Honda, or whatever the case may be. So once again, guys, I'm gonna have a follow-up video to this within a year or two. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. And the EV world, as far as Honda goes, is new to all of us. So it's gonna be a learning curve for all the technicians and the consumers as well. Unless if you're coming from a EV as well, especially being a GM product, then it should be a fairly easy transition for you. So anybody that's typically used to a Honda product will definitely have a learning curve, both consumers and the technicians. So we're gonna learn this stuff together, and I'm gonna share all the information I have as it comes in with me, any common issues or any issues or service bulletins or service news that comes out. I'll make sure I have the latest and greatest information so you're all up to date. And if you own one of these vehicles or potentially in a market for one, you can make an educated decision. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap this video up, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.